Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Max Payne, starring Mark Wahlberg, Mila Kunis, Bo Bridges, Chris Ludacris Bridges, Chris O'Donnell, Donald Logue, and Olga, let me see if I say this name right, Kurilenko, and directed by John Moore. Now, I remember going to the theaters without realizing this was a video game, but what did I think of the movie? It was hard for me to pay attention to it at best. Let me see if that still remains the case. Let's get into it. Detective Max Payne, played by Mark Wahlberg, is a very sour character as he doesn't believe in heaven, he believes in pain, which is the stupidest opening line ever. Max wakes up in the cold case file, or works, after seeing his wife and kid murdered, and I think he's and by the wife, I'm talking about his wife Michelle, and I think he's very one note, which is a bland action star with no personality, but to love his wife and kid. And thank God we don't get him shouting in the heavens. But overall, Wahlberg gives me absolutely nothing. He goes to the train station and gives back a watch to the robber pawned that a robber pawned earlier in the day, and shoots up the bathroom to get one of the robbers, and an angel picks up one of the robbers while on the track, and he gets killed, which makes no goddamn sense. Max barges in Trevor's place, and Natasha, played by Olga Kurilenko, whom I'll be reviewing later on in Hitman next week, and later on in the year, Quantum of Solace. And I have reviewed her before in Johnny English Strikes Again. And we also meet Natasha's sister Mona Sachs, played by Mila Kunis, who I swear to God reminded me of the character she played on that '70s show, Jackie, more than the character she's supposed to play in this movie. Max takes Natasha to his place, and as soon as she gets comfortable, she gets kicked out of his place. And I'm 14 minutes into this movie, and there's already a lot of things wrong, lots of things wrong with it at this point. Particularly since she took his wallet and gets killed over it by an angel. And why the hell should I care at this point? Max comes off one out anyways. Natasha gets killed rather quickly. Mona just reminds me of a character she played on a TV show, and Max is picked up by Alex Boulder, played by Donald Logue, who gets killed rather too early in this movie when Max's apartment gets broken into, and B.B. Hensley, played by Jeff the Dude Man's brother, Bo Bridges, gets Max out of the hospital. And we also meet Jason Colvin briefly, played by Chris O'Donnell, aka Robin in the later Batman movies in the 1990s, who used to be Max's wife, Michelle's boss, which felt pretty damn pointless. And the funeral service scene was painful, absolutely freaking painful. After the painful funeral service scene, we meet Lieutenant Jim Bravura from Internal Affairs, played by Chris Ludacris Bridges, who is terrible in this movie, absolutely terrible. He'll do better in the Fast and Furious series than here, in my opinion. Max goes into Alex's office to find out what he was going to tell him while the other cops try to break down the door. Max bumps into Mona as she wants to talk about Natasha while Max finds Owen Green, and Mona takes him to Owen while he's about to die from an angel throwing him out of his apartment, which looks horrible. This is a stupid movie with a bunch of gunplay, and this is part of the bad video game movies that should have never been made in the first place. Just stick to the game. I never played it myself, but seriously, stick to the game. After dropping Mona at her boss's hideout, Max finds a file from the company. Let me see if I'm saying this right. Yeazer, which is Rise A backwards, which is Jason, aka the Chris O'Donnell character's company. And Max comes to the house to remember Michelle's death, while meanwhile BB, after meeting Max at a diner, and calls Lieutenant Bravura to explain what happened to Max when his wife died and asks him to help Max. And I've had it out with this movie. The cinematography looks absolutely ugly, like another movie the director did with the Omen remake. Max comes into Jason's office and asks what Michelle did for his company, and he doesn't know what she did, and Max punches Jason repeatedly, and his secretary calls BB as well as the security, and Jason tells Max the truth and wants Max to protect him as he asks Max to grab an envelope. That explosion that explains Michelle's murder, and we get a gunplay scene starting with Jason getting shot by the security man and killed. And it felt like a very endless as it's a lazy action scene. And at the end of the scene, Lieutenant Brovera almost had Max, but the security blows up the door and lets him get away, which was just honestly so freaking stupid. Max breaks into Mona's office and the Eiser building builds the Valkyr, I'll say, which is a type of drug that makes people feel strong. And Mona tells Max he is at a place called Ragnarok, which is a Norse mythology thing. And is this making any sense to the plot? Hell no. Max gets there and shoots the place out to get Jack Lupino, and I'm getting bored out of my mind. BB shows up and gets Max out of there and betrays him by knocking him out and putting him in handcuffs because Michelle was nosing around some files. And was that a good reason to have this plot? Not even by a long shot. Max gets the cuffs off and jumps in the water as he's almost down, which was the opening of the movie, as we come back to it as he's ready to die. But Michelle says, "Not yet, Max." And he goes back and gets out of the water and he drinks the potion and roars up into heaven, which, that was a freaking painfully acted moment. The FBI are on the way to expose BB as he tries to get out of the building, and Max goes after BB and the assistant as they go to the roof for chopper reasons, and an angel comes to Max to fry him up, and we see a vision of Michelle and the building collapses in his vision, and Mona comes in to give Max a gun as BB is on the roof, and Max blows up the building, and the score to this movie is horrendous. And Max confronts BB and shoots him before he confesses, but he doesn't give a shit, and I don't give a shit at this point either. Max comes to Michelle, and she once again says, "Not yet, Max." And I don't care where this goes. I don't even want a sequel to this, for crying out loud. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 2.8 out of 10. This is the dumbest movie as far as a gunplay goes and I've ever seen in my life. The action was boring, the plot makes no sense, the cinematography looked absolutely ugly, and the score was just horrendous. I really don't like any of the characters as they make stupid choices. It's just a terrible film, and I really don't want a sequel to this. So do yourselves a favor, stick to the game, seriously. So I will be back next time with another arcade movie or video game movie, Hitman. And until then, game over.